Thank you very much, Jim. I'm Kelvin Coleman. I'm Executive Director and the Chief Executive Officer of the National Cybersecurity Alliance. You can have the most sophisticated cybersecurity technology on the market, but if your people are ill-trained or ambivalent about the cybersecurity threats you're facing your organization, the future of your organization is in significant danger. On this panel, you'll hear experts discuss what works and what doesn't as you try to create a team of cyber heroes. Every organization is different, so every plan has to be different. But as promised by the panel title, we're going to talk a little bit about at least 5 different areas you can help shape a cybersecurity first culture. So with that, we'll start with Ruth. Ruth, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing very well. My name is Ruth Godfrey. I am the Security Awareness Manager for British Columbia Hydro. We are one of the largest power producers and distributors of electricity, specifically in British Columbia. I think I'd like to talk to the question of what is the biggest misconception about cybersecurity and awareness. And we find that people, when we mention in any tone the word training, people roll their eyes. They get very frustrated. But I think with security awareness, there's an opportunity. I think we as professionals or those who get to deliver the program and the training, that there's an opportunity to provide awareness training in a way that doesn't have to be standard, that click through. I think that we can make it very exciting, engaging. And once you know your demographics, you can even target that with the type of training that you're going to provide. So maybe gamification or something that would appeal. But that comes over time.
Really great to have you here today, Ruth. Kim, let's go to you next. Introduce yourself and certainly give us that big misconception from your point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been with TELUS Security for 9 years now, and I have a unique view in that we have a national cybersecurity professional services practice. So we see people at all different places. And I'm really excited about the shift in the last couple of years from technology-based security as the solution to this more holistic and collaborative approach in the organization. And I think that's also where some of the misconceptions come from, that security awareness is part of a compliance checklist, whether it be part of a security framework that you're trying to adhere to or become compliant with and get that certification. And I think that's where you see organizations go off the rails with their cybersecurity program when they treat it as this one time or once every 6 months. But it really needs to be part of their everyday and an ongoing thing as opposed to a point in time.
Wow. I look forward to hearing more from you, Kim, on that. Very, very serious topic there. Kevin, let's go to you. Introduce yourself and maybe give us an idea of the biggest misconception from your viewpoint.
Thanks for having me. My name's Kevin McGee, and I'm the Chief Security Officer for Microsoft Canada. I think the biggest misconception about security awareness really comes down to our side. It's the IT folks, it's the security practitioners. We tend to see the user as the problem, as the challenge to overcome, as the thing to fix. But ultimately, going back to first principles, none of our jobs or none of the technology would exist without the user. Our whole purpose is to enable that user. So how do we safely enable that user? How do we work with that user to really make security as seamless as possible as part of their job?
Yeah, great point. Last but certainly not least, Kathy, any misconceptions? And of course, let us know who you are.
Okay, I'm Kathy McDonald. I've been doing cyber awareness training since early 2000. I'm a retired police officer from Calgary Police Service. I instruct at the University of Calgary. Talking about misconceptions, Calvin, and with the rest of the group, I agree 100%. I think, cyber awareness training can be exciting. It doesn't have to be quite so boring. Make it simple, make it direct, make it important, have important messages and continuous. So, just mix it up and make it somewhat interesting and exciting by humanizing it.
So, Kathy, your experience on the law enforcement side is going to be invaluable during this conversation. Kathy, let's start with you. What are some proven ways to engage as it relates to cybersecurity?
I think that these new virtual platforms have given a new opportunity to cyber awareness training. You can invite people in, you can invite people within the company into the conference call. You know, the CEO and the CISO and even people from the IT security team, and just share a bit of information from even a personal and a practical standpoint that people and employees can use to take home to help safeguard their families and their network.
Kevin, how about you, my friend? Some proven ways to engage as it relates to cybersecurity.
I think it's really important not just to do the training, but really tone from the top is what really matters, because you can have the best training program imaginable, but if really, the folks above you in the organization aren't following it and saying, do as I say, not as I do, then it won't trickle down as part of the culture. So this needs to be from the boardroom right to the server room. A great way to really demonstrate that in my mind is to do tabletop exercise. It's not only great security awareness learning technique, but also really can demonstrate how engaged and involved we are, and can learn about, how we respond to things before they actually happen. So take something ripped from the headlines, an attack that happened to another organization, tabletop it at the board, at the C level, at the director level, right down to the help desk level, and say, how would we respond? Let's role play this out and see what we really learn. It's fascinating what you do learn, and find those little holes in your organization or whatnot as well. But when the staff sees the senior leaders or the managers actively participating and prioritizing these sessions, it really says more than any email you can ever send out that this is important, or a poster you can put up with an exec. Active participation, tone from the top is definitely the key.
That is so important. And you point about tabletops. I always looked at tabletops like the 5-hour power drink. They come in these little cans, but they provide so much. Kim, let's come to you in terms of some proven ways, cybersecurity, the engagement piece there.
Another one I would say is context. Give people context and help them understand their role, other people's role, and how they impact the organization's security. There's nothing more important in doing your work and understanding that it has an impact, and understanding, how that translates into other things for other people. So I'm always a big believer in give people the context, give them that gives them the power to understand what they can influence in the organization.
Ruth, some great suggestions so far, but I'm quite sure you have a nugget or two for us to think about here today. Any ideas as it relates to proven ways of engagement?
I think we've touched on it, and that is that to get to know your cyber team. In an organization, it can range from a security awareness professional like myself, or you're delivering the program and also the training, but and sometimes the phishing exercises, which they get to know your name at least by. But cyber involves a lot more people than just the face of an awareness program. Cybersecurity and awareness hits home as well. So what we're learning, those basic concepts, can be applied at home. We can make a virtual event like a lunch and learn, only bring it online, and talk about those things that are really affecting our families and at work as well.
Now, Kim, I'm going to come back to you, though, because someone is going to say, well, how are you doing in this area? How do you know if you're successful or not? So what metrics do we use, Kim, to measure engagement?
I think there's traditional metrics. So, what's your click-through rate, and how is that, trending down? Are you increasing the complexity of those exercises and still seeing those results? Those are numbers, and they're measurable. I think that there's also ones that are maybe not part of the platform, but are you noticing an increase in people reporting?
Thank you very much. Kathy, let's start with you in terms of establishing that awareness culture and that initiative. Does size of company really matter?
It depends upon many factors, mind you, about the type of company and the risk factors involved. But no, the size doesn't matter. And I think it's really important. It is a culture, and it's something that is really tough. But as a person that wants to build that security awareness, you want to motivate your employees to want to help to protect. And that's the tough part. You want them to have that desire to report and to be really diligent.
I almost want someone to say, no, yeah, well, yes, size matters, right? So I think we all will say, no, size doesn't matter, But then I am going to pose it to you, though, because you're one of the, largest, at least most profitable companies on earth. Does size really matter when it comes to cybersecurity awareness? Kevin, do you disagree with Kathy? I almost want some disagreement here.
All right, I'll just disagree to make you happy. Okay, size, it does matter. Like, the smaller you are, you tend to think you're not a target because I'm small and insignificant. I work with a lot of startups that really think, hey, we're too small, we're insignificant. You're actually probably a bigger target at that time in developing your organization because you haven't built out those facilities, you haven't built out those processes and whatnot, and you have more to lose.
And like any good moderator, I agree with you both. So, so coming to our second category today, gamification. Kathy, I'm going to come back to you because I think, you're certainly expert in many areas, but, can answer this for us. What are some of the efforts to gamify security awareness?
Well, I remember back in 2008 and 2009, I had the opportunity to go to the National Cyber Forensic Training Alliance in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And they are right next door to Carnegie Mellon and Scilab. And I believe that, Scilab actually developed anti-phishing Phil. And I think it's still around. It's a great game. Pretty fun and animated. But I think that the whole principles of gamification are the same as real world in that it makes you anti-fragile. You know that people are watching, assessing you, they're documenting you. I really think it helps with that anti-fragility these days.
Do you think produce long-term results, or is this sort of a short-term fad or fix that we're going through in terms of gamification and security awareness?
Well, I think it definitely complements the overall program and really supplements in certain areas. But yeah, you need to have a comprehensive security awareness program. And I think gamification is a great tool as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Ruth, come to you right now. What is the best practice for someone who violates the company's clicking policy?
Well, there are many thoughts on that. I think that depending on the culture of your organization, I think it certainly determines your approach. At BC Hydro, a conversation is typically the first line of response to someone who clicks or is a repeat clicker, let's say within a phishing exercise. I think that that's a good start.
Ruth, thanks so very much because when you talk about the carrot or the stick, it seems like carrot works most of the time, right? So Kevin, what are some of the steps we can take to improve their behavior in this area, in the category of escalation?
Yeah, I talk to a lot of boards, I talk to a lot of CEOs, and they'll ask me, how do I know if I have a good security culture? And really, that's a great point, not just to teach that person who clicked on that link, a lesson or something about security awareness. It's a great point to learn, because when they clicked on that link, what did they do next? What happens in the next minute really defines your security culture. If they try to hide it, or if they try to cover it up, or they pay the ransom so they don't get in trouble, or they fear retribution, that gives you one answer about your security culture. If they feel empowered that they can raise their hand and ask for help or be part of the solution, that tells you much more.
Kevin, as you talk, what was screaming in my head is not the mistake most of the time, it's the response to the mistake, right? That makes it worse, which is so great. Kim, we're still in category escalation. Last question for you here. And Kevin talked about in his introduction in terms of leadership, but how can you tie cybersecurity training to business objectives in order to secure buy-in from the organization's leadership?
If you're talking to leaders and you really need them to understand why it's important that, like Kevin said, you have that top down, speak to them about the things that will impact their level. Give them the context at their level on where investing in employees understanding and being part of cybersecurity awareness, building that culture, understanding their role, actually directly impacts the bottom line and productivity and how effectively an organization can serve its own clients.
Kathy, a little challenge here. I'm gonna put a little spin on the question that Kim so expertly answered here. But how can we change behavior for repeat clickers instead of punishing them?
Those kinds of people that are repeat offenders or maybe have offended in some way, in a big way, why not put them in charge of maybe organizing the next theme for Internet Safety Month, or writing an article for the newsletter, or maybe organizing the next Lunch and Learn? So give them a role that's an important role. They have a story that they can tell if they want to. And it really comes from a place where they've learned. And I think it's a positive way to overcome some of these problems that are repeat.
I like it, Kathy. Make the car burglar the car salesman. Now we're going to talk specifically about recognition. They say both in Canada and America that you can catch more flies with honey. Is that true when it comes to security awareness, Kevin? Can you catch more flies with honey than vinegar when it comes to cybersecurity awareness?
So recognition is something I struggle with for users and our teams. So I'll give you two quick answers on that. One, how do you recognize, hey, yay, nothing happened? It's really difficult. But there are other industries that have figured it out. If you think about the insurance industry, they've built in functions to reward customers by lower rates or whatnot. So looking to other industries that are similar, that have similar challenges to find some ideas are great as well. The other thing is the security teams. If your security team is involved in an incident and they solve the problem and whatnot, they can't talk to anyone about that. It's private. I mean, how do you recognize them openly for fighting off a cyber attack or doing something that was really critical to the success of the business? So a lot of times, even the cyber security response teams go unrecognized. So finding other ways. With my team, what we do is we do things like mentoring students, where we can help them develop their career or get started in the industry, because I can recognize them for that, and it's a chance to find a fulfilling way to really take those lessons learned and channel them for good as well.
It's amazing that you've been able to combine recognition with workforce development, almost with the mentorship program, which is absolutely incredible. So, Ruth, same question. Is it true in cybersecurity awareness in terms of catching more flies with honey?
I think it is. People love to be recognized for doing the right thing. It's as simple as, numbers, like aggregated information, like last phishing exercise, look at the ones that reported the phishing. Yes, there were those that failed the phishing exercise, and certainly they would have known about it. But really, the positive changes in how your employee base are recognizing that that's suspicious. That is what is going to reduce your risk by reporting or by deleting. And I think if you don't acknowledge that, it just becomes another one of those exercises.
And Kim, do you get better results by recognizing good behavior rather than focusing on correcting bad behavior?
I think just to expand on sort of what Ruth was saying about the metrics, I think you celebrate it. You celebrate, it might seem silly if your click-through rate went down 2% to celebrate, but the more you celebrate, one, it speaks to the organization like, this matters, they're talking about it, they're sharing it, I contributed to that. And let's face it, if you start sharing metrics on, we're really proud that X number of people took this training or took this initiative to take this training. Well, as an employee, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to go take the training. Like the competitive nature in me wants to make sure that I am part of that.
Wow. Such wise advice. Kathy, I'm on the edge of my seat. Want to ask you this one as well, the same one I just asked Kim. Because of your traditional law enforcement background, being familiar with the physical side of security as well, now the cyber, do you get better results by recognizing good behavior rather than focus on correcting bad behavior? Again, your experience, this is going to be a good answer.
I think it's very important. And, sometimes it's the people on the front line. They're the ones that are sometimes more under attack. They're the ones that are talking to more people. They see the vulnerabilities, they see the weakness, but sometimes they don't have a process or a vehicle to report. So allowing people that opportunity to report, maybe the people that are, using and collecting and disclosing that personally identifiable information that is so important to an organization, talk to them, find out what's going on. And then, of course, if they come up with an idea or a vulnerability that helps the organization build, capacity and resilience, then reward them, maybe an opportunity to attend a free conference or a discounted rate on a course. But better yet, have somebody in the IT security team, have them select somebody that's really made a difference in the company.
The next question here, what are some good recognition programs that folks can take away from our talk today? What are some good recognition programs, Ruth?
I think cash. And that may sound strange, but a certificate so that people can use it to purchase things or apply it, even going out for dinner. For us, that works.
I don't think cash. Well, yeah, that's good. Kim.
Yeah, I mean, cash is king. Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know of one specifically, but I do like Kathy's idea of like earn your way towards something like a professional development day or something like that.
Kevin, any awesome programs out there you know of?
Promotion. I mean, it's one factor of being cyber secure, but it should be one of those things that are really taken into account when you look at promoting someone to a more senior position. Are they doing a good job in this? Let's reward good behavior.
Well, thank you for eliminating my last question, Kevin, because I was going to ask about should we tie cybersecurity training to promotions, but thank you very much for that. Like what all of you are saying, very people focused. So any successful program needs champions. How do you find those champions across an organization? Kim, let's start with you.
To have it truly ingrained as an organizational culture, you're looking for ambassadors that are from all business lines. So it would be really prudent to have them come together and all have their different viewpoints, whether they're from business, IT, security, HR, sales.
Very intriguing thought there, because organizations often look to security teams to lead awareness programs, as they are the data gatekeepers. Is that reasonable? I mean, do you think we should spread that out a little bit in terms of other people who can lead that for us?
Yeah, I do think that you come to security for the expertise. Just like if I was, looking at a candidate to hire, I would go to a human resources or people and culture and ask them to provide some feedback. But I think that you truly need the ambassadors to be in the individual business lines and run it alongside.
In terms of, this question of do you need a champion? Is there any difference between a large organization and a small organization in terms of how you find those champions across an organization, Kevin?
I think really it doesn't matter the size of the organization in this case, it's who you're listening to and who's advising you. So I would say the number one thing you can do to really ensure the success is diversity. So how do we get all voices heard? That's not just lines of business, that's different backgrounds, educational, age groups, every measure of diversity you can bring in.
Awesome. Now, just one question for each of you that we can sum this up. What is the one thing that each member of the audience can take away and apply tomorrow to improve their organization's cybersecurity awareness effort?
Don't be in a hurry from a security awareness program or feeling that you have a successful program. Don't limit it to yourself. Don't be frustrated. Have your strategic objectives, goals, roadmaps in place, and I think you'll find it to be less frustrating. And also the urgency to be fully successful. Give yourself that time, because it does take time and resources.
Kathy, please give us that one thing that people can walk away with and apply tomorrow.
I think that the IT security team has a lot to offer. If they could just go and introduce themselves to somebody an arm's length away from them, maybe in procurement or in supply chain management or in privacy, or even the maintenance person, go and introduce themselves to that person and say, I would be willing to come to your department's next Zoom call for 2 minutes and share some personal and some practical cybersecurity information and advice that might help safeguard your family and your family's network at home. So that team has that ability, they have the knowledge, the background, and it gets them face to face and mingling more, and that face recognition is so important.
Good old-fashioned conversation. So, Kim, let's come to you in terms of what's the one thing we can leave folks with today that they can apply tomorrow?
We get really focused on KPIs and milestones and project-based deliverables and like when is success and when you're talking about security and when you're talking about a security program and you're talking about a culture of security, there really actually is no end. It's a journey. Just celebrate the small goals and small wins, but you're never actually getting off of a journey of security.
Wow. It is certainly a journey, not a destination, right?
Exactly.
Kevin, give us something that we can apply tomorrow.
Every mistake, every challenge, every thing that really goes wrong, anything is a chance to learn as well. So asking why, really understanding context, using empathy, really builds that trust that allows you to not only teach but also to learn as well.
I have really enjoyed this panel. And talking about a very technical area of cybersecurity, we've talked mostly about people and relationships and conversations. Thank you so very much for being with us today. Really enjoyed being with my colleagues from Canada here today. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and we hope to see you soon face to face.